The combat of Stellar Blade is by far the biggest draw for me. Personally, it felt amazing in the demo, and that's without all of the potential upgrades and even crazier boss fights that we're no doubt going to get throughout the rest of the game. But there is quite a bit to actually learn with the game just around the corner today. I wanted to break down everything you need to know about the combat in Stellar Blade. Now, the basics of the Stellar Blade combat are actually very similar to that of a Souls-like in that there are sort of the four main functions you need to be using, those being the block, the parry, the dodge, and obviously your attacks. The block and the parry are obviously tied together as they are realistically the same thing with just different timing. Blocking just stops the incoming damage, whereas parrying slightly staggers the enemy and also drains them of their balance meter, which is the yellow dots that you can see above their health bar. And when you actually empty that, you get to use a finisher type of attack that deals a heap of damage. As I'm sure you guys would know by now, all you need to do to actually get those parries is just time the block at the perfect time. You need to essentially do it right as the enemy is about to hit you, and that will parry them, removing one of those bars from that balance meter. As for the dodge, it is definitely pretty standard there, so there's not too much to go over. What I will say though is that there are some upgrades you can make to it in the survival skill tree that turn it from a pretty regular dodge into definitely a more powerful, more agile, and overall more useful mechanic. In terms of your attacks, there are multiple ways to attack in this game, those being your standard attacks, your ranged attacks, and then the beta skills, but I'll save the beta skills for a little bit later on because there is a little bit more depth to go into there. In terms of the quick attack and the strong attack, with the quick attack being square on your controller or the strong attack being triangle, these obviously both have pros and cons. The strong attack obviously deals a bit more damage, but it is also a fair bit slower than the quick attack. But these are actually really good to use in combination rather than just kind of picking one or the other that you prefer to use. Now, through the attack skill tree, you can actually unlock a bunch of combos down the bottom of that skill tree that make the combat even more enjoyable too. So you don't want to be just spamming square or triangle all day long. Instead, you want to be unlocking these combos and actually getting used to them, figuring out which ones work best in which situation, and then using those to your advantage. Now, on top of the regular attack, so there is also the ranged attack, which is essentially a gun that you can use by aiming L2 and then firing with R2. We really don't get that much access to it in the demo, so I'm fairly sure there will be more to it in the full game with more ammo types and stuff like that, but for now that is really all we know. I actually did not know about this right away. I played the demo for like almost 2 hours before noticing this, so I think it is fairly easy to miss that you can actually have ranged attacks. I guess it doesn't mention it in the actual playthrough part of the demo because that is essentially the first mission, and therefore we, I guess, don't unlock it in that section. But if you do the boss challenge, you can still use this, and so that's probably why it doesn't really say anything about it. But that is a handy tip for you guys to know leading into the game, that you can actually equip a gun and deal some damage at range. Now, if you guys are excited for more Stellar Blade content, be sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications. There's plenty more content on the way, so make sure you don't miss out. Now, the next mechanic that is worth talking about when it comes to the combat is the shields as well as the enemy shields, and this is a pretty simple mechanic. When it comes to you playing as Eve, the clothing you wear determines how much of a shield you have, and the better your shield is, the more damage reduction it will give you, meaning you just essentially take less damage per hit when you have a better shield. It isn't quite as simple as that though. Your shield is broken up into segments, which you can see here on the HUD, and as you progressively take damage, it becomes less effective, only being able to recharge to each segment. So for example, you will start with 3 segments. If you take a heap of damage at once, you might drop all the way down to say halfway through that second segment of shield health, and then at that point it will only be able to charge to the end of that second segment rather than charging all the way to the third. And so this makes it really important to avoid a lot of damage all at once. As obvious as that sounds, you should obviously not try and take a lot of damage at once, but because of the shield mechanic, obviously you can regenerate as much health as you want. But when it comes to your shield, if you're only taking like 1 hit at a time, you're going to have your shield for a lot longer. But if you're taking like 10 hits at once, you can actually lose your entire shield, and then from there the entire fight is going to be a lot more difficult. So yeah, if you're taking hits, you want to try and avoid any damage until you see that shield recharging, and that will give you that higher damage reduction for a longer time. Now, there are also 2 different consumable wheels that allow you to pick and choose what you use, those being the potion wheel and the combat consumable wheel. Now, the potion wheel is essentially just a handful of different healing potions. For example, your standard health potion is called the rechargeable tumbler, but there are a few alternatives here. There are also the slow release health potions, and even one that gives you more HP but you just have less of them, and holding up on the D-pad will allow you to pull up that potion wheel and select the one you want to use, and then just simply pressing up on the D-pad will allow you to use that selected potion. The same thing sort of goes for the combat consumables as well, but these are more like offensive weapons than survival tools. You can use anything from shock grenades to mines, even grenades that affect the enemy's balance or shields, and this is definitely something that I underused on my first first playthrough of the demo, because again, it doesn't really explain it that early on in that demo. So be sure to make the most of these, as they are especially effective against groups of enemies and even against certain bosses as well. Now, finally, like I touched on before, we have the beta attack system, and this system is one of the elements that probably differentiates this combat from a Souls-like, allowing us some sort of power-up attacks that deal really solid damage and can also break the incoming attack of enemies if timed properly. Now, beta attacks are used by holding L1, which is obviously your block button, but then you want to be pressing the corresponding button of the attack that you want to use, with 4 different attacks being tied to X, square, circle, and triangle. Each of these attacks have their best use cases, so some are great for in close, some have some really good range on them, some allow you to even close distance on your enemies. And so once you get your hands on the game, you just want to spend some time in getting used to each one and sort of figuring out which one works best in which situation. In order to gain the ability to use these though, you'll need to fill your beta meter, which is the top meter on your HUD down in the lower left. Now, it might be a little bit different early game, as obviously the boss challenge in the demo is like a nearly maxed out Eve, but usually the beta skills take 2 of these little bars, with I guess 4 of those little squares there equating to 1 bar, and these can be earned by being essentially proficient in combat. For example, parries, dodges, and attacks all slowly earn those points for the beta bar, and obviously you can sort of save a couple in the bank rather than using them right away if that's how you want to play it, because as you can see, there are 6 total bars there, meaning you can kind of save up 3 beta attacks, and then if you want, you can use them all at the same time. But that is pretty much it for a general explanation of the basics of the combat in Stellar Blade. Hopefully that has you guys ready to go for launch and can ease you into the game a little bit easier, as it can definitely have its tougher moments from what I experienced in the demo. Like I said, if you guys are interested in more Stellar Blade content, be sure to hit that subscribe button. There is plenty more on the way. But with that being said, thank you all very much for watching. You guys have a great day, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.